Imagine stepping into a forest where the night itself seems alive, where stars slip through the branches like lanterns, and every shadow holds a secret waiting to be discovered. This is where Jack's journey begins, not with fear, but with wonder, as he walks into a dark jungle that will test his courage, awaken friendship, and reveal the light hidden even in the deepest night. Jack enters the mysterious forest at night, guided by starlight. Subscribe for daily amazing bedtime stories to fall asleep. Once upon a quiet night, Jack found himself standing at the edge of a forest that shimmered under the soft silver glow of the moon. The trees stood like tall giants, their leaves whispering secrets carried by the breeze. Jack placed his hand on the bark of the nearest tree and whispered, "Guide me, I trust you." He was not talking to a person but to the forest itself, because deep inside he believed that nature listened when spoken to with honesty. His heart was calm, his breath steady, and his eyes lifted toward the sky where the stars looked brighter than ever. They didn't just twinkle, they seemed to lean forward, as if bending down to lead him safely through. Jack's steps were light, like feathers brushing the earth. The path beneath him was barely visible, but the stars above painted gentle streams of light that seemed to say, "You are not lost, you are guided." Every time he doubted himself, he looked up and whispered, "If the stars can shine in darkness, then so can I." Those words carried a power that sank deep into him. As he walked further, Jack noticed how the forest shifted. The silence wasn't empty, it was full of life breathing quietly, like a lullaby from the earth itself. A rustle in the leaves reminded him of laughter shared with friends back home, the kind that stayed in his heart even when they weren't around. Jack smiled and said softly, "I'm never truly alone. The love I carry makes every path brighter." The forest seemed to respond with a gentle wind brushing against his cheek. A few steps deeper, shadows tried to stretch across his path, twisting like fingers of doubt. Jack paused. He thought of the many times in life when fear had tried to stop him. Fear of failing, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being too small for the journey ahead. He closed his eyes and spoke out loud, not just for himself but for anyone who had ever felt that way. "Fear is only a shadow. It cannot touch the light unless I let it. And tonight I choose light." The moment those words left his lips, the shadows pulled back, and the stars glowed even brighter, marking the way forward. The forest floor felt softer the deeper he walked, almost like a carpet laid out just for him. He imagined it was the earth's way of saying, "Rest your worries here. Let me carry them for a while." Jack took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the crisp night air, and whispered, "Thank you." The stars blinked back at him like little eyes nodding in agreement. Soon Jack heard a small voice, so soft it could have been a thought. "Keep going, Jack." He looked around but saw no one. He placed his hand over his heart and said, "I hear you." The voice wasn't from outside, it was his own courage speaking to him after so long of being quiet. "You've always been here," Jack said with a tender smile. "And tonight, I finally hear you clearly." Every star above seemed to pulse with energy, like applause from the sky. Jack felt taller, not in height but in spirit. The boy who stepped into the forest with only curiosity now walked with quiet confidence, knowing that every trial in life, every shadow, was simply a path to remind him of his own light. And as the branches arched above him, glowing faintly as though dusted with starlight, Jack whispered one last phrase that felt like a promise, both to himself and to anyone listening in the universe. If I keep moving forward with kindness, courage, and faith, then no darkness can ever truly win. The forest sighed in agreement, the wind carrying his words away to mingle with the stars. The forest grew deeper, and Jack soon felt the air shift. What had been calm and soft now carried a tension, like a quiet drumbeat beneath the earth. From between the twisted trunks, dark shapes began to emerge. Men with harsh eyes, carrying greed in their hearts. They were the kind of people who wanted to claim the forest's beauty for themselves, cutting it down, stealing its light. For a moment, Jack's breath caught. His chest tightened as he thought, how can one person stand against many? But before fear could overwhelm him, there was a sound, an owl's low call, followed by the rustle of foxes stepping gently from the brush. A deer moved forward too, its eyes glowing like soft lanterns. Jack looked at them in wonder and whispered, "You came." The owl tilted its head, as if to say, "You are not alone." The men sneered, stepping closer, their voices sharp. "You're just a boy. Leave now, or you'll be swallowed by this jungle." Jack felt his knees shake, but he placed a hand over his heart and replied softly, yet firmly, "You see only darkness, because that's all you carry inside. But look around. You cannot snuff out what was born to shine." His words echoed through the trees, not loud, but powerful in their calmness. The foxes padded to his side, the deer stood tall beside him, and the owl swooped low with wings like silent shadows. The forest seemed to awaken, branches creaking as though cheering for him. Jack took another step forward, his voice steadier now. "All my life I thought strength meant fighting alone. But tonight I've learned true strength is standing together. You cannot defeat that, no matter how dark your hearts may be." The men froze. Something in his words reached them, not like a sword cutting through, but like water wearing down stone. They shifted uneasily, their shadows shrinking back into the jungle. Jack watched quietly, breathing slowly, his heart steady now. He realized it wasn't anger that turned them away, but the simple, undeniable truth that unity and light will always outlast greed and fear. He looked at his animal friends and whispered, "Thank you for reminding me. Even when the world feels heavy, we can carry it together." The owl hooted softly in reply. The foxes curled near his feet, and the deer bowed its head gently, as if acknowledging the bond they now shared. Together, they protect the jungle through unity and light, not violence. Jack stood in the heart of the jungle, the night wrapped around him like a cloak. The stars shimmered faintly above, slipping through the cracks of the thick canopy. The bad men who had come to steal the forest's magic loomed before him, their faces hardened by greed and shadows. Jack could feel the weight of their presence, and for a fleeting moment, doubt whispered into his mind. What can one boy do against so many? But then something shifted. A small fox padded softly to his side, its golden eyes steady and fearless. An owl circled above, wings outstretched like silent guardians of wisdom. Even the deer, gentle yet unwavering, stepped closer and pressed its nose near Jack's shoulder as though to say, "We are with you." Jack's chest rose with a deep, calming breath. He placed his hand over his heart and whispered, "I am not alone, and I never truly was." The bad men laughed harshly. "Do you think a boy and a few animals can stop us? This forest belongs to whoever takes it." Their words dripped with arrogance, the same kind Jack had heard in everyday life. People who thought kindness was weakness, people who mistook silence for surrender. Jack stepped forward, his voice low but steady, carrying a power that did not need to shout. "You believe strength is in taking, but strength is in giving. You think you can own this forest, but the forest is not yours to own. It belongs to itself, to every root, every star, every creature that breathes within it. You only see darkness because that is what you bring. But I've learned something tonight. Even in the deepest jungle, light does not ask permission to shine. It just shines." The men shifted uncomfortably, their shadows flickering as if the stars themselves pushed them back. The owl swooped low, brushing the air with a sound like wind through ancient branches, and the fox growled softly, small but unwavering. Jack took another step forward, his voice like calm water smoothing rough stone. "When people stand alone, shadows feel bigger than they are. But when we stand together, darkness loses its shape. That is how the forest wins, not by fighting, not by anger, but by refusing to let its light go out." He paused, looking each of them in the eyes, and added gently, "Think of the times in your lives when someone showed you kindness, a teacher who didn't give up on you, a friend who shared their meal, a stranger who smiled when you were at your lowest. That was light, and that is why you're still here. The truth is, none of us survive without it." His words weren't sharp like a blade, they were warm, like a fire on a cold night, melting the hardness around them. The men faltered. Their hands lowered, their voices lost the edge of certainty. For the first time, they seemed to notice the stars above and the quiet strength in the forest around them. One of them muttered under his breath, almost to himself, maybe he's right. A Jack smiled softly, not with triumph, but with relief. "The forest doesn't need you to fight it, and neither do I. What it asks is simple. Protect what protects you. When you walk gently, the earth carries you farther. When you choose kindness, it returns to you tenfold. That is how we all survive." The jungle grew still, the air lighter, as though the darkness had thinned. The bad men slowly backed away, their eyes uncertain, their figures dissolving into the shadows they once commanded. Jack exhaled deeply, feeling the forest itself breathe with him. The deer nudged his hand gently, the fox curled near his feet, and the owl perched above as if keeping watch. Jack whispered, "Unity and light, that is the only way forward." And the stars above blinked brighter, as if agreeing with his words. Jack finds peace and friendship beneath the starry sky, falling into gentle rest. Jack wandered further, until the forest opened wide into a hidden clearing, and what he saw took his breath away. A great lake stretched before him, so still and perfect it mirrored the night sky above. It was as though two heavens had joined hands, stars above, stars below, endless and infinite. The water shimmered gently, every ripple carrying the reflection of constellations that seemed alive. breathing softly with the earth. Jack sank into the grass at the edge, the ground warm and comforting, like a blanket prepared just for him. His animal friends gathered close. The fox curled against his side, the deer lowered itself nearby, and the owl perched above, its watchful eyes soft in the moonlight. Jack gazed at the mirrored sky and whispered to himself, "It feels like I'm lying between two universes, caught in the middle of something too big to understand, but too beautiful to ignore." He closed his eyes for a moment, inhaling the cool night air, and thought of all the times he had carried worry heavier than his shoulders could bear. Exams at school, moments when he felt invisible in a crowded world, times when people misunderstood his silence and called it weakness. He thought of those memories, and then he looked back at the stars and said aloud, "If stars can keep burning for thousands of years without ever asking why, then maybe I don't need all the answers tonight. Maybe I just need to shine where I am." The owl let out a soft hoot, almost like agreement. The fox twitched its ears, shifting closer as though to remind him that companionship is often quiet, not loud. Jack reached out to stroke its fur and whispered, "I used to think friendship meant always being surrounded by people. But tonight I understand. It's knowing you're seen, even when you don't say a word." The deer lifted its head and looked at him with steady eyes that seemed older than time. Jack smiled faintly and murmured, "Thank you for teaching me what peace feels like. I thought I had to fight my way to it, but it was here all along, waiting for me to slow down enough to notice." His voice softened as he added, "That's just like life, isn't it? We chase after happiness as if it's far away, but sometimes it's right in front of us, simple as stars reflecting in water." The lake's surface rippled gently, as though the sky itself nodded in agreement. Jack lay back fully now, his body sinking into the grass. He stretched his arms wide, as though he could embrace the whole universe above and below. "I am small," he said, "but I belong here, just as every star belongs to the sky and every drop belongs to the sea. That is enough." The fox rested its head on his chest, the deer closed its eyes, and the owl tucked its wings in, all of them easing into the rhythm of his steady breathing. Jack's eyelids grew heavy, but his heart felt lighter than ever. He whispered one last thought, more to himself than to anyone else. "Friendship makes the night less lonely. Peace makes the heart less heavy. And the stars remind me that even in darkness, beauty never stops shining." The forest hushed, wrapping him in its gentle embrace, and the stars above continued their eternal watch. He faces the bad men, but stands strong with the help of forest creatures. As Jack rested by the lake, the forest seemed to cradle him in its arms. The cool breeze brushed against his face like a gentle hand, and the soft song of crickets rose in harmony with the quiet ripple of the water. The stars above burned brighter, yet softer, as though they were dimming themselves into a lullaby. Everything around him, the trees, the creatures, the sky, moved in perfect stillness, reminding him that peace is not the absence of sound or motion, but the presence of balance. He looked at his reflection in the water and saw not just himself, but the boy who had walked with courage, the friend who had listened, the dreamer who had chosen light over fear. He whispered softly, I came here looking for adventure, but what I found was something greater. I found myself." His words drifted across the lake and disappeared into the night, but he knew the forest had heard. The fox nestled closer, the deer sighed deeply in its sleep, and the owl closed its eyes, confident that the night was safe. Jack felt his own breath fall into rhythm with theirs, and in that shared quiet, he understood a truth that would stay with him forever, no matter how dark the world may feel. There will always be stars. There will always be friends, and there will always be light waiting to guide us home. With that thought resting gently in his heart, Jack let his eyes close, not in fear of the darkness, but in trust of it. And as sleep embraced him, the forest whispered back the most calming promise of all: you are safe, you are loved, and you are exactly where you are meant to be.